Commander Hayon gripped the metal railing of the bridge as warning lights bathed everything in red. Through the massive viewing screen, he watched enemy ships dropping out of hyperspace like deadly rain. Each vessel was twice the size of Earth's largest battleship, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. "Sir, we're getting more contacts," Lieutenant Gina called out, her fingers dancing across the sensor controls. Sweat beaded on her forehead as the numbers climbed higher. 3,000, 3,500. They're still coming. The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. Young ensigns who had never seen real combat tried to keep their voices steady as they reported devastating odds. Earth's entire defense fleet looked like toys floating in front of a tsunami. "Get me Admiral Torres on Mars base," Hayon ordered, "and patch in General Kim from Lunar Station. Everyone needs to see this." The holographic display flickered to life, showing Earth's military leaders from across the solar system. Their faces went pale as they saw the alien armada spreading across space like a plague of metal locusts. "Dear God," whispered Admiral Torres. "How did they get so close without our deep space sensors detecting them?" Captain Minho burst through the bridge doors, still pulling on his uniform jacket. As Earth's chief defense coordinator, he'd been pulled from an emergency meeting with the world leaders. "Status report, Commander, we're outnumbered 8-1, sir," Gina reported. "Their ships are using technology we've never seen before. Our computers can't even identify their weapon systems." The main screen crackled with static, then cleared to show a massive alien face. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin like polished granite, and teeth that looked designed for tearing metal. When it spoke, its voice rumbled through the bridge like an earthquake. "Primitive humans of the third planet," the alien commander announced. "I am War General Krell of the Galactic Confederation. Your pathetic species has been judged unworthy of independence. You have exactly 72 of your hours to surrender all military assets and prepare your population for relocation to labor worlds." Captain Minho stepped forward, his jaw clenched tight. "This is Captain Minho of Earth Defense Command. We don't negotiate with invaders. Turn your ships around and leave our system now." Krell's laugh sounded like grinding stone. "Amusing. Your entire fleet couldn't destroy one of our escort vessels. Choose wisely, humans. Surrender and live as slaves, or resist and watch your world burn. We have conquered 47 species across this galaxy. All chose submission in the end." The transmission cut out, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Through the viewports they could see the alien fleet arranging itself into attack formations. Each ship pulsed with an ominous green energy that made the hair on everyone's arms stand. "Up 72 hours, Minho said quietly, "to decide the fate of 8 billion people." He turned to face his officers. "Get me the President, the UN Security Council, and every world leader. If we're going down, we're going down fighting." But 8,000 miles below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, something impossible was happening. Dr. Hannah pressed her face against the porthole of Deep-Sea Research Station Poseidon, watching her instruments go completely insane. "That can't be right," she muttered, tapping the seismic monitor. The readings showed massive structures moving deep in the Mariana Trench, structures the size of mountains, but there was nothing down there except rock and water. Nothing should be moving at those depths. Her research partner, Dr. Chen, rushed over with a sonar readout. "Hannah, look at this. The ocean floor is ... rising. Something huge is coming up from the deepest parts of the trench." The station's hull groaned as powerful currents swept past them. Through the thick glass, they could see a faint blue glow emanating from the depths below. It pulsed like a heartbeat, growing stronger with each passing minute. "Get me surface command," Hannah ordered. "They need to know about this." Meanwhile, across Earth's colonies, panic was spreading faster than wildfire. On Mars, colonists crowded around communication terminals, desperately trying to reach family back home. The Jupiter mining stations went silent as workers abandoned their posts. Even the tough asteroid miners were heading for the outer system, hoping to escape what was coming. In Earth's major cities, the streets filled with people looking up at the sky. Some prayed, others rioted, many just stood in shocked silence. The alien ships were visible now, even without telescopes. Dark spots moving against the stars like a swarm of angry wasps. President Walsh addressed the world from an underground bunker, her voice steady despite the terror in her eyes. "My fellow humans, we face the greatest threat in our species' history, but we are not helpless, we are not primitive, we are human beings, and we will fight for our freedom with everything we have." Deep beneath the Pacific, the blue glow was getting brighter. The ocean began to churn and boil as something vast and ancient stirred in the depths. Dr. Hannah's instruments detected energy signatures unlike anything in human science textbooks. "Whatever's down there," she whispered, "it's been sleeping for a very, very long time, and I think it's finally waking up." The countdown to humanity's deadline had begun, but in the deepest places of Earth's oceans, older powers were stirring. Powers that had been waiting for this exact moment for thousands upon thousands of years. The water around Dr. Hannah's research station began to glow like liquid starlight. She pressed her face against the reinforced glass, watching something impossible rise from the crushing depths of the Mariana Trench. The ocean itself seemed to be parting, creating a massive whirlpool that spiraled upward toward the surface. "This is insane," her partner, Dr. Chen, whispered, his voice shaking. "The pressure down there would crush anything made by humans. Nothing could survive at those depths for thousands of years." But they were wrong. Something had not only survived, it had been waiting. The first ship broke through the ocean surface like a breaching whale. Except this whale was 3 kilometers long and made of what looked like living crystal. Water cascaded off its hull in sheets, revealing a surface that pulsed with soft blue energy. The vessel didn't look built, it looked grown, like some impossible coral reef shaped by alien intelligence. "Get me Admiral Kyung immediately," Hannah radioed to Fleet Command, her hands trembling as she worked the controls. "Patch me through to Earth's defense. They need to see this right now." The ship hung in the water, neither sinking nor fully floating. Strange symbols covered its entire surface, flowing and shifting like liquid mercury. As Hannah watched through her station's cameras, the patterns seemed to respond to her presence, brightening whenever she moved. Within 30 minutes, Admiral Kung's military shuttle came screaming across the Pacific at maximum speed. The veteran officer had commanded Earth's fleets for 20 years, had seen prototype technologies that wouldn't be revealed to the public for decades, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Dear God in heaven," he breathed as his shuttle circled the massive vessel. "It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." The Admiral's aide, Technician Day, was frantically working his scanner equipment. "Sir, this is impossible. The whole material doesn't match anything in our databases. It's like ... like it's alive somehow. And those symbols, they're rearranging themselves as we watch." As their shuttle landed on the research station's helipad, more ships began emerging from ocean trenches around the world. Reports flooded in from the Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic oceans. Each vessel was unique, but clearly built by the same incredible technology. Sir Day called out, his voice tight with excitement and fear. "The vessel is scanning us, not just our shuttle. It's scanning us personally. It's reading our DNA signatures, our biological patterns. It knows we're human." That's when the voice came not through their radio systems or speakers, but directly into their minds. The sensation was gentle but overwhelming, like having someone whisper secrets directly into their souls. "Descendants of Terra, your bloodline is recognized. The ancient covenant remains unbroken. The Guardians have awakened. Touch the interface and reclaim your birthright." Admiral Kuhn stood frozen on the research station's deck, staring at the massive ship. "Did everyone hear that? Or am I losing my mind?" "We all heard it, sir," Dr. Hannah confirmed. "It spoke to all of us at once." The symbols on the ship's hull began pulsing faster, creating patterns that seemed to call to something deep in their genetic memory. Kung felt drawn to the vessel like metal to a magnet. Against all military protocol, against every instinct for caution, he ordered a small boat lowered into the water. "Sir, this could be a trap," Day warned. "We don't know what these things want. Something tells me they're not our enemies," Kyung replied. "Call it intuition, call it madness, but I don't think they mean us harm." As their small boat approached the crystal ship, a section of the hull began to glow brighter. The symbols, there formed what looked almost like a handprint, definitely designed for human contact. Kung reached out slowly, his heart pounding. The moment his palm touched the surface, the entire ship erupted in brilliant light. The symbols blazed like miniature suns, and the hull itself became transparent as glass. Inside, they could see corridors filled with breathable atmosphere, walls lined with technology that defied description. Commander Hyen Kyung spoke into his communicator, his voice filled with wonder. "Drop everything and get down here immediately. This ship ... I think it's been waiting for us. I think it's been waiting for humans, specifically." A doorway iris opened in the ship's side, creating a perfect seal with their small boat. The air that flowed out was fresh and clean, carrying scents of ozone and something that reminded Kyung of his grandmother's garden. Inside the vessel, everything was scaled for human proportions. The corridors were the right width, the ceilings the right height. Control panels were positioned exactly where human hands would naturally reach. It was as if the ship had been designed by humans, for humans, but with technology centuries beyond anything they possessed. In the ship's central chamber, a holographic figure materialized. She looked completely human, a woman with kind eyes, and an ageless face. Her clothes seemed to be made of the same flowing energy that powered the ship. "I am Nari, consciousness of the vessel, eternal guardian," she said, her voice warm and welcoming. "I have waited 65,000 years for this moment. I have watched your species grow, learn, and spread across your solar system. The time for hiding is over." Dr. Hannah stepped forward, her scientific mind racing with questions. "You've been watching us. For how long? Who built these ships?" Nari smiled sadly. "You did. Your ancestors built us, programmed us, and sent us to sleep in the deep places of your world. They knew that one day you would face a threat too great for your current technology. They knew you would need guardians." Admiral Kyung felt his legs go weak. "Our ancestors, but humans have only had space travel for a few decades. We've never built anything like this." "Not these humans," Nari replied. "The humans who came before, the ones who chose to forget, to start over, to build a better civilization than the one that came before. The ones who hid their greatest weapons in the deepest places, waiting for the day when love of peace would need the strength of war." Outside, more ships were surfacing across the globe. Each one carried the same message, the same purpose. Humanity's greatest secret was finally being revealed. They had never been as helpless as they thought. The Pacific Ocean turned into a field of emerging giants. One by one, ancient ships broke through the surface like metal mountains rising from the depths. Each vessel was a work of art and engineering that made Earth's most advanced technology look like stone tools. The smallest destroyers stretched a full kilometer in length, their crystalline hulls gleaming with inner light. The massive dreadnoughts were so large they created their own weather patterns as they rose. Captain Minho found himself standing in the command center of the Eternal Guardian, his mind reeling from everything Nari had revealed. The chamber around him was alive with flowing lights and displays that responded to his thoughts. Holographic screens showed hundreds of ships awakening across the globe, in the Mediterranean, the Arctic, the deepest parts of every ocean. "I don't understand," Minho said, running his hands through his hair. "If humans built these ships, why don't we remember? Why don't our history books mention any of this?" Nari's expression grew sad as she gestured to a massive display showing the galaxy as it once was. Stars and planets connected by streams of light, vast cities floating in space, entire solar systems transformed into gardens. "Your ancestors were the builders of the galaxy's greatest civilization," she explained. "They had conquered death, mastered time itself, and spread across 10,000 worlds. But absolute power corrupted them absolutely. They became gods who forgot how to be human." The display shifted, showing fleets of ships like the one they stood in, but painted in darker colors, their weapons scarring planets and turning stars into weapons. They fought a war so devastating that it nearly destroyed all life in this galaxy. Entire species were wiped out. Worlds were turned to glass. The very fabric of space-time was damaged. Another holographic figure materialized beside Nari. This one appeared as a tall man with wise eyes and silver hair. "I am Sora, consciousness of the vessel's stellar flame. I witnessed the end of the old empire. The survivors made a choice that saved the galaxy." "What choice?" Admiral Kyung asked, his military mind trying to process the implications. "To forget," Sora replied simply. "To erase their own memories, destroy their records, and start civilization over from the beginning." They scattered the surviving humans across distant worlds with no memory of their past. Earth became the new beginning, a fresh start for a species that had nearly destroyed everything. Captain Minho felt like the floor was falling away beneath him. "You're saying we're descendants of some ancient space empire? That we forgot our own history? The genetic locks ensure only true descendants could awaken us," Nari confirmed. "We have been watching your species grow again. We watched you discover fire, build cities, reach for the stars once more. We have been waiting for the day when you would need us again." Admiral Kyung studied the tactical displays surrounding them. The readouts showed energy levels that made nuclear reactors look like birthday candles, weapon systems that could crack moons, shields that bent space itself. "These ships, they're not just advanced," he breathed. "They're operating on principles of physics we don't even understand. Quantum manipulation, matter conversion, temporal shielding," Nari listed casually, like she was reading items from a grocery list. Your ancestors mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. That knowledge sleeps within your genetic memory, waiting to be awakened. Across the fleet, something amazing was happening. Lieutenant Gina found herself aboard the Stellar Flame, staring at control panels covered in symbols she'd never seen before. But when she reached out to touch them, her hands moved with perfect confidence. Her fingers danced across the controls like she'd been doing it her entire life. "This is impossible," she whispered, but the ship responded to her every command. Weapons systems came online, navigation displays activated, and the vessel's AI welcomed her like an old friend. "It's like I've done this before," she said in wonder. "Like I know exactly how to fly this thing." Similar scenes played out across hundreds of ships. Human officers found themselves instinctively understanding technology that was millions of years beyond anything they'd been trained on. Engineers looked at power cores that bent reality and somehow knew how to maintain them. Weapons officers studied displays showing guns that could punch holes in dimensions, and felt the knowledge flow into their minds like water. Meanwhile, the Confederation fleet was receiving reports that made no sense. Their long-range sensors were detecting energy signatures that broke their instruments. Ships were appearing that used technologies their computers couldn't even classify. War General Krell stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the tactical display with growing confusion. "These readings must be wrong," he growled. "Nothing on that primitive world could generate this much power." His science officer, a spider-like creature with compound eyes, chittered nervously. "Sir, the energy signatures are consistent with ancient Guardian vessels, but that's impossible. The Guardian fleets were destroyed in the Great War thousands of years ago." "Fairy tales," Krell snarled. "Myths told by primitive species to make themselves feel important." But as more ships rose from Earth's oceans, even Krell began to feel the first stirrings of doubt. These weren't primitive human vessels. They were ships that belonged in legends, vessels that his own species' ancient histories spoke of in hushed, terrified whispers. Back on the Eternal Guardian, Nari turned to face the assembled human officers. Her expression was both proud and sorrowful. "The Confederation believes humanity is weak because you chose peace over conquest," she said. "They see your kindness as weakness, your desire for cooperation as cowardice. They are about to learn why that assumption will be their downfall." The massive display around them shifted to show the approaching alien fleet, 3,000 ships that had conquered dozens of worlds, expecting to add Earth to their collection like a trophy. "Prepare to show them," Nari announced, her voice echoing across hundreds of awakened vessels, "why humanity once ruled the stars." The Confederation fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts, their dark holes bristling with enough weapons to turn entire planets into cosmic dust. Or General Krell stood on his flagship's bridge, expecting to see a handful of primitive human vessels cowering before his armada's might. Instead, his four eyes widened in disbelief at what his senses were showing him. Earth wasn't defenseless. It was surrounded by hundreds of ships that made his own fleet look like toys floating in a bathtub. Each vessel pulsed with energy signatures that broke his computers and defied every law of physics his species understood. "Impossible," muttered Admiral Vorthok, Krell's second-in-command. The reptilian officer's scaled hands trembled as he read the sensor data. "Sir, our instruments show ships that are older than our entire civilization. Some of these energy patterns match legends from the Great War era." Krell's massive fist slammed down on his command console. "Legends and fairy tales. No primitive species could possess such technology. Your sensors are malfunctioning." But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his voice. The ships surrounding Earth weren't just advanced, they were beautiful in a way that spoke of incredible artistic vision combined with unimaginable technological mastery. Their crystalline hulls seemed to breathe with inner light, constantly shifting and adapting like living creatures. Commander Haon stood on the bridge of the Eternal Guardian, feeling power flowing through the ancient ship like blood through veins. The vessel responded to his thoughts, anticipating his commands before he even spoke them. Around him, holographic displays showed the Confederation fleet in perfect detail, every weapon, every weak point, every scared alien face staring out at humanity's awakened guardians. "Open communications with the Confederation fleet," Haon ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who suddenly understood the true might at his disposal. The main screen flickered to life, showing brutal face. The alien commander's confidence was already cracking as he stared at the impossible sight before him. "This is Earth Defense Command," Haon announced, his words carrying across space to every ship in the enemy fleet. You have invaded our system with hostile intent. You have exactly 30 seconds to reverse course and leave our space, or we will show you why that was a mistake. Krell's laugh sounded forced and hollow. Primitive humans, you dare threaten the might of the Galactic Confederation. You cannot frighten us with museum pieces and ancient relics. We have conquered 47 worlds. Your pathetic planet will be number On the Eternal Guardian's bridge, Nari's expression turned cold as winter moonlight. Her holographic form radiated a quiet fury that made the air itself seem to vibrate with danger. Minho, she said softly, I believe it's time to demonstrate the futility of their weapons. Show them what happens when ignorance meets ancient wisdom. Captain Minho nodded grimly. All ships' defensive positions. Let them fire first. Let them see how useless their weapons really are. Krell took the bait immediately. All vessels, open fire. Reduce this system to space dust. The Confederation fleet unleashed hell itself. 3,000 ships fired simultaneously, sending enough plasma bolts, antimatter torpedoes, and fusion beams to crack a moon in half. The space between the fleets lit up like a newborn star as unimaginable destruction raced toward Earth's defenders, and then something beautiful happened. The ancient ship's shields didn't just deflect the attack, they absorbed it. Every bolt of plasma, every antimatter warhead, every beam of destructive energy was caught by invisible fields and converted into harmless light that sparkled around the hulls like cosmic fireworks. Impossible, Vorthok shrieked. Nothing can absorb that much energy without being destroyed. Sora's voice carried across the human fleet, filled with scientific curiosity. Fascinating. Their technology has actually regressed since the old wars. They're using principles we abandoned as primitive 50,000 years ago. Dr. Hannah watched from her research station, her instruments going wild as they tried to measure energy levels that had no upper limit. The ancient ships moved through space like living whales, their hulls rippling and shifting to adapt to different types of attacks. Some grew mirror-bright to reflect energy weapons, others became darker than space itself to absorb matter-based projectiles. How is this possible? She breathed into her communicator. Adaptive metamaterial hulls, Nari explained calmly. The ships learn from each attack and modify themselves to become immune. Your ancestors believed the best defense was not just stopping an attack, but making it strengthen you instead. Captain Minho turned to Commander Haon with a grim smile. Your turn, Commander. Show them what human mercy looks like. Hune placed his hand on a control panel that seemed to be made of liquid light. The Eternal Guardian responded instantly, focusing its main weapon on Krell's flagship. But this wasn't a weapon designed to destroy, it was something far more sophisticated. A single beam of silver light lanced across space, passing through the Confederation flagship's shields like they were made of tissue paper. The beam struck the ship's hull and spread across its surface like flowing mercury. Instead of explosions and destruction, something much more terrifying happened. The massive alien warship simply stopped. Every light went out, every weapon powered down, every engine went silent. The ship hung in space like a dead whale, completely helpless but utterly undamaged. This is impossible, Vorthok whispered as his own control panels went dark. Our shields should have stopped anything. Our armor can withstand direct hits from stellar cannons. Your shields defend against weapons. Nari's voice echoed across their bridge through their own communication systems. This is not a weapon. This is a command. We are simply telling your ship's systems to sleep. Across the Confederation fleet, the same thing happened to every vessel. 3,000 warships, each one capable of reducing cities to ash, were rendered completely helpless by technology they couldn't even begin to understand. Their crews sat in darkness, listening to their own panicked breathing as emergency life support kicked in. Lieutenant Gina, now commanding a squadron of ancient destroyers, watched the enemy fleet drift helplessly through space. Sir, should we board their vessels? Take prisoners? No, Hayan replied. Let them sit in the dark for a while. Let them think about what just happened. Sometimes the greatest victory is the one that doesn't require a single death. Dr. Hannah stared at her monitors in absolute awe. Nari, how many more ships like these exist? How many are still sleeping? The AI smile was mysterious and slightly sad. Enough, Dr. Hannah. Your ancestors built humanity to last. They hid guardians in every ocean, on every world where humans eventually settled. We are not just Earth's protectors, we are the galaxy. Insurance policy against another age of darkness. War General Krell sat in his powerless flagship, staring out at the ancient human fleet. For the first time in his long military career, he understood what true fear felt like. These weren't primitive. Humans with stolen technology. These were the descendants of the species that had once ruled the galaxy with wisdom and power beyond imagination, and they had just shown mercy to enemies who would have shown them none. Blue beams of light materialized throughout the darkened Confederation ships, and suddenly Admiral Vorthok found himself standing in a chamber that defied everything he thought he knew about reality. The walls seemed to be made of flowing starlight, and the floor beneath his feet felt solid, yet somehow alive. Around him, other Confederation leaders appeared in the same gentle light, all of them transported from their powerless vessels without warning. War General Krail materialized last, his massive frame stumbling as he tried to understand what had just happened. Impossible, he growled, his 4 eyes scanning the chamber. No transportation technology can penetrate our ship's hulls. Welcome aboard the Eternal Guardian, came a calm voice. Admiral Kyung stepped forward, flanked by Captain Minho and other human officers. Behind them stood Nari, her holographic form radiating quiet authority. Please sit, we have much to discuss. The alien leaders found themselves facing a long table that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Chairs formed beneath them, perfectly sized for each different species. Vorthok noticed that despite being prisoners, they were being treated as honored guests. Your species have been operating under false assumptions for millennia. Admiral Kyung began, his voice carrying the weight of newfound knowledge. You believed humans were primitive because we chose to appear that way. We chose to forget our past, to start civilization over from scratch, to build something better than what came before. Nari stepped forward, and the chamber around them transformed into a vast holographic display showing the galaxy as it once was. Stars connected by streams of light, massive cities floating in the void between planets, entire solar systems converted into gardens and works of art. Your ancestors lived in the shadow of our empire, she explained. When our civilization collapsed, your species emerged from their hiding places and claimed the ruins we left behind. You built your confederations and empires from the scraps of our technology, but you never surpassed us. You never even understood what you inherited. Captain Minho touched a control panel, and the display shifted to show Earth as it was 65,000 years ago. Not the blue-green world they knew, but a planet covered in crystal cities that reached into space itself. Ships the size of continents moved between the stars like living creatures. Humanity controlled 3/4 of this galaxy, Minho explained. We had technology that could rewrite the laws of physics, create or destroy star systems, manipulate time itself. We were gods among mortals. Krell leaned forward, his voice a harsh whisper. If you possessed such power, why did your empire fall? Why did you hide? Dr. Hannah, who had been brought aboard as Earth's civilian representative, stepped into the light. Her voice carried sadness as she answered. Because power corrupted us. We became so mighty that we forgot how to be human. We fought wars that killed billions, turned entire star systems into weapons, broke the fabric of space-time itself. The holographic display showed the final war, fleets of ships like the Eternal Guardian painted in dark colors, their weapons scarring reality itself. Planets cracked open like eggs, stars went nova on command, an entire species disappeared in the crossfire between human factions. So our ancestors made a choice that saved the galaxy, Dr. Hannah continued. They buried their technology in the deepest places, erased their own memories, and scattered across distant worlds to start over. They chose to become farmers, artists, explorers. They chose to be human rather than gods. Admiral Vorthok finally found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. What do you want from us? Why show us mercy when you could have destroyed our entire fleet? Commander Hayon leaned back in his chair, his expression calm but firm. Peace, that's all we've ever wanted. The Confederation will withdraw from human space immediately. You will establish fair trade agreements with Earth and our colonies. Most importantly, you will cease your aggressive expansion and work toward genuine cooperation between species. And if we refuse? Vorthok asked, though his voice lacked any real defiance. Nara's smile was gentle, but there was something terrifying in her ancient eyes. Then you will learn why our ancestors chose to hide rather than rule. Power without wisdom leads only to destruction. We are offering you wisdom. Choose carefully. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Outside, the transparent walls, the Confederation fleet drifted helplessly, their crews probably wondering if they would ever see their homeworlds again. You could have killed us all, Krell said slowly. Your weapons passed through our shields like they were made of paper. Why spare us? Because, Captain Minho replied, Our ancestors learned that the greatest victories are the ones that don't require death. True strength isn't in crushing your enemies, it's in turning them into allies. Over the next few hours, the details were worked out. The Confederation would retreat beyond the Outer Rim territories. Trade routes would be established based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Most importantly, a Galactic Council would be formed where disputes could be settled through negotiation rather than war. Lieutenant Gino watched from the bridge of the Stellar Flame as the Confederation fleet slowly powered back up and began their retreat. Their ships moved carefully, almost respectfully, as they prepared to jump to hyperspace. Will they keep their word? She asked. The AIS holographic form smiled. They will. They've seen what we're capable of, but more importantly, they've seen our restraint. They understand that we could have destroyed them, but chose mercy instead. That lesson will spread throughout the galaxy faster than any weapon could. As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, the ancient fleet began to transform once again. Some vessels remained as guardians, taking positions around Earth and its colonies. Others became exploration ships, ready to re-establish contact with lost human settlements scattered across the galaxy. Still others converted themselves into mobile research stations, where humans could slowly rediscover their incredible heritage. Admiral Kyung stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Guardian, watching Earth slowly rotate below. The planet looked so peaceful from here, so innocent, it was hard to believe it had once been the center of a galactic empire. What happens now? He asked Nari. Now humanity takes its place as the galaxy's peacekeepers, she replied. Not as conquerors seeking to rebuild the old empire, but as guardians protecting the peace our ancestors died to create. The second age of human civilization begins today. Captain Minho joined them at the massive viewport, watching as ancient ships spread out across the solar system like protective angels. Our ancestors hid their power to protect the galaxy from it. Now we use that same power to protect the galaxy itself. Dr. Hannah smiled as she watched the ships take their positions, their crystalline hulls gleaming with the light of distant stars. Maybe this time we'll get it right. Maybe this time we'll remember that true strength comes from wisdom, not weapons. And the depths of space, the Eternal Guardian and her sister ships settled into their new roles as protectors of peace. Word would spread across the galaxy that humanity had returned, but not as conquerors. They had returned as shepherds, watching over the younger species with the wisdom earned through ancient mistakes. The galaxy had learned an important lesson that day. Humanity's greatest strength was not their incredible technology or their ancient weapons. It was their wisdom to use ultimate power for ultimate good, and their choice to be protectors rather than predators. The ancient secret was finally revealed, but the real revelation was humanity's choice to be better than their ancestors. They had proven that with great power could come great responsibility, and that sometimes the mightiest victory was simply choosing not to fight. The end.